Welcome to State of Wellbeing, a podcast from South Dakota State University. The State of Wellbeing is a holistic well-being podcast with the goal of supporting the campus community as we strive to be a growing, high-performing, and healthy university.
Welcome back to another episode of the State of Wellbeing podcast. My name is Kevin Sackrider. I am the Executive Director for the Center for Professional Enrichment and Teaching Excellence here at South Dakota State and a member of the SDSU Wellbeing team. Today, we're going to continue our series focused on the Student Success Network and offices and groups on campus that support that Student Success Network and support the overall student success of our students here at South Dakota State. And so I'm really excited today as we focus on that Student Success Network to welcome a couple of folks from our Office of Continuing and Distance Education. We have Carey Kilmer, our Director of Continuing and Distance Education, and Mercedes Schievelbein, Enrollment and Student Success Coordinator. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello.
Hey, Kevin. Thanks for having us here today.
Yeah, I'm excited to have this conversation. So why don't we start with maybe a little bit deeper introductions? And I think what I'll do is we'll start over here with Carey and let you just introduce yourself to us, talk about your role a little bit here at SDSU, and especially that role within continuing and distance education.
Perfect. Happy to, Kevin. Yes, Carey Kilmer, as Kevin indicated, Director for Continuing and Distance Education. So really kind of the general oversight of the Office of Continuing Distance Education. We work with a lot of different programs through our office, primarily with relation to our online and distance programs, the dual credit program, so high school students taking college credit while they're still in high school, working towards their graduation there. And some other services connected to summer term, non-credit offerings, and so on.
And Mercedes, how about you? You want to talk a little bit about your role here at SDSU?
Yeah, absolutely. First off, SDSU alum, go Jacks. I did both my undergraduate and both master's degrees with SDSU. And so I've kind of always had a passion for working with our students. My office is actually located in Sioux Falls. So I work closely with that community, but I also work with all of our online and distance students. And so really it's from the start of application to onboarding. I run our orientation for online learners, as well as a couple other student support services once they're actually admitted and enrolled at SDSU. So really, my job is to be here to support you as an SDSU student.
Sounds like you got a lot of responsibility. I know the numbers are pretty strong, so I'm sure you stay pretty busy over there.
Absolutely. We love the phone calls. We love the emails. I mean, our main goal as a staff is just to make sure that our distance students feel just as supported as our main campus students.
I love that. So why don't we just jump right in? And we kind of heard a little bit about what the offices do, but maybe a little bit deeper dive and talk about the role your office has specifically in supporting students here at SDSU. And so I'll frame that just a little bit more, but what do you do? Who do you support? And maybe some specific services that you're most proud to share with our audience today.
Yeah, definitely. So as I mentioned, we really do a lot of work around supporting students who are enrolling in our online or distance programs here through SDSU. And these are students that are, maybe here in South Dakota, but maybe they're living West River, or students across the nation. And we really strive to be able to provide them the services that they need to be successful and to reach their academic goals. And really that's through resources that we have developed that are more just static resources that are online. We update those regularly with new information that we learn, some of the best practices in supporting students at a distance. One of the conversations I think we've had a lot of discussion around recently is just that sense of belonging for our distance students, and how do we really make them feel connected to the SDSU campus and part of that Jackrabbit family. So I think some of the services that we definitely are proud of is our virtual student union. And that is just a platform that we have actually right in the learning management system, where students can access it where they're at on a regular basis, where they're accessing their courses and everything.
So if I'm a student who hasn't experienced the virtual student union, I'm always fascinated by that conversation, and maybe sharing a little bit about what does that look like? If I were a student, I walked into the virtual student union, What's that like?
Yes. So as Carey mentioned, it is housed in D2L. And so right when you log in to say, look at your math class, you'll see a shell that says Virtual Student Union. And so just so students are aware, this will automatically pop up on your D2L shell as long as you're enrolled in at least one fully online course or one course that's offered at a location outside of our Brookings main campus. So many times I like to tell students, think that you were going to walk into the regular union, right? Maybe you'd want to reach career services or connect with your academic advisor, or even connect with fellow students. We've tried to create that in the virtual platform. So you're really going to find a plethora of resources that are available to you as an SDSU student. We try to make as many help guides really into a visual video because we know that's popular with our students. So even from the very beginning of how do I navigate my D2L course, we have a video for that in the Virtual Student Union. So it's just meant to help you find the resources you need, especially if maybe you're not as comfortable yet with seeking out maybe your academic advisor or someone else. It's a good starting platform.
So I think the real question we have to ask, though, is can I get Chick-fil-A in the virtual stuff?
No, I can't get Chick-fil-A in Sioux Falls either. Well, not campus Chick-fil-A. The food part we haven't quite figured out, but we're making moves in the support area.
I have goals, right?
Yes, correct.
So I interrupted you, Carey, but this is going to happen sometimes, but we talked Virtual Student Union. I know you had another couple things you wanted to talk about.
Yeah. So another thing I do want to just mention too, because I think, as students get into their courses and sometimes maybe not feeling connected and not sure where to turn, especially with the academic side of things, what opportunities that they have for support there. So one thing I do want to just make sure to call out too is we do offer free online tutoring through D2L as well. So it's can be accessed through the resources menu. And every student has 15 hours available to them each semester to utilize at no cost. So that there's a wide range of subjects that are covered there. There's also some career development resources through the tutoring platform as well. So strongly encourage students to look at that, seek that out. If a student really does need additional hours for a semester, we can certainly provide additional hours as well. And that's just reaching out through our distance email address, and we can work with them on that. So that is one of the resources too. Again, feel that we really need to provide, again, that academic support that, again, maybe not accessible to the on-campus resources available for that. So certainly want to plug that platform and the services available there. The other thing I think, too, is just I have a great team, I think, along with Mercedes, other members of the team. So certainly if you're feeling lost or need an additional helping hand or just even someone to talk through, always feel free to reach out to our office. I think our team is very responsive, and while we maybe aren't to the point of contact or don't have the answer, we really have a mindset of we're not going to send you just to somebody else. We're going to find out what the answer is and get you connected to the appropriate individual or office that can really provide that support. So just a big plug for the team, and certainly welcome students to reach out again, either by phone, by email. We're happy to help and assist.
Well, and I think that's a great transition to where I really wanted to go next. And that was, if a student is seeking help, you mentioned reaching out to the team, but how does your office specifically help connect students to different resources if they need additional support?
Yes. So a large part of what we do is advocating for our main campus resources to be offered in more of a virtual platform. And I will be honest, the campus has made such advancements in the last 5 years of really recognizing our distance population and not just providing the support that maybe we provide to our main campus students, but also seeking out what are our distance students' specific needs and how do we meet those. Something CDE did in this past year too was launched a survey to really dive into that student feedback on, we think we know what you need, but maybe we're wrong. Tell us what we're missing. And so we got some great feedback in that area, and that will be helping us implement future initiatives. But a couple of things that we have done, as we have kind of touched on, but maybe not dove into, we do offer an orientation for online learners. And so similar to any student that is coming into SDSU, we really want to start that connection to those campus resources and virtual resources from the first day that that they're even engaging with SDSU. And then that carries over into the virtual student union as well. And we do try to carry a social media presence also for our students. There's just so many different platforms when you're working with distance students, and so many different time zones even on how can we meet them where they're at. And so really, I mean, I hate to make it sound so simple, but it's mainly just us listening and having a conversation, making sure that somebody is on the receiving end of those questions. And as Carey mentioned, a soft handoff where, we're going to make sure that you are getting your questions answered, you're getting connected to the right resource, that it's okay to continue to reach out to us. But for example, we also want you to build your relationship with your academic advisor, because that's going to really be your point of contact as you continue with SDSU. So helping students to understand also what are those resources and how are they there to serve them.
I love that. That's a great approach. And I think too, when you mentioned the team and that openness and receptiveness, building those relationships with the online students is so important. And I love to hear that. And so if I'm an online student or a student that's engaging with the Office of Continuing and Distance Education, I'm really curious, based off your experience, what are some of the frustration points that students may experience? And then how do you help them navigate those frustration points?
Yeah. I think there's some common ones. I think a lot of times we do typically see these at the start of a semester. And I think, again, especially with our new students who maybe they're engaging in an online course for the very first time. It may be an adult learner who is coming back to the university and it just feels all new to them and everything. So I think some of the frustrations we see a lot is technology. Again, I think just getting their accounts established and getting them established early so that they can get into the systems and really start navigating. I think also that D2L and really learning how to navigate the virtual classroom and everything there. I think we do some great things we have some standardization as far as the course shell, as far as what resources are available from the main navigation menus and everything there, but also realizing that faculty will have a unique feel to their courses as well. And so sometimes it is just really kind of talking through that and guiding a student to take a look at the course syllabus, read through that, to look through the news feed and the information that's out there. To hit the content and so on. And then another thing that we really just encourage students to do early is to communicate with their instructor and have those conversations, and don't be afraid to reach out to their instructor when they're struggling or need some guidance or assistance in that area. The other thing too, I think, is just faculty, I think, are very good as far as having either Zoom office hours or willing to schedule a Zoom meeting with a student just to kind of talk through some of those challenges that maybe they're having. Again, I would, certainly on the academic side, recommend hitting that tutor.com, those free online tutoring services and everything that students have. I think other things that we've struggled with and have had conversations amongst our team really is maybe some of the limited hours of some offices and services available. I know, and we really, again, as Mercedes said, advocate for the distance learners who need those support and those resources beyond the 8 to 5 hours and everything. So, we're really good and responsive as far as, checking email and everything there. I know one of our staff members in the office really does provide more flexible. She maybe works a little bit later into the evening and she'll accommodate a student's schedule and everything. Because we serve a wide variety of individuals and everything there. So, those I think are some of the biggest things that I see, and also just kind of some of the time management, because you're not walking into a physical classroom. So I always encourage students to schedule some time in your calendar on a regular basis and really try to stick to that as best as you can. So those are some of the things I would, certainly see as far as some of those frustrations and some of the guidance that our team will provide students when they connect with us. Yes.
It really strikes me as you're kind of going through a few of those things, like learning how to navigate D2L and building that relationship, reaching out, asking questions of your instructors, that though we're talking about continuing and distance education students, we're really talking about best practices as far as teaching and learning. And I've been known to say good teaching is good teaching, regardless of the platform, and really good learning practice for students is probably good learning practice regardless of the platform as well. So one of the next questions I had that I really wanted to kind of shift our focus to, because this podcast is connected to the Wellbeing team here at SDSU. And I'm curious if you could talk from a well-being perspective. What types of opportunities or supports does the Office of Continuing and Distance Education strive to provide to the students that you have the opportunity to engage and interact with?
Yes. So, really our first line of defense is just building relationships. We want to get to know our students and know what their needs are. But then it's also promoting, we don't house necessarily all the resources in our office specifically, but what services are available to SDSU students virtually. And so on the well-being side, we also look at the counseling center. They have recently launched You Will, which is a virtual platform to receive counseling, and that's available to all students. So that's really exciting for our distance students that maybe can't take advantage of the counseling center on main campus. We also try to just expand our services, as we've touched on before, of, maybe you are struggling with time management, but you don't even have time to meet with an academic advisor to discuss this. We will create self-help videos in our student success video section that will kind of guide those students through not just time management, but self-management, stress management. What are those areas that we can highlight? And a lot of times too, it's even talking from personal experience of when we were in school. A lot of our online learners are managing their academics, but potentially also parenting and working a full-time job. And so thinking of the reality that our students are living in really helps us to not just connect them to campus resources, but sometimes community resources as well. Because we do have students all across the U.S., and some of those resources look a little bit differently depending on where they're physically at. We also try to partner with community resources even here locally. So we have worked with the Lost and Found to offer peer mentoring to our students online, which is something that has been very beneficial. And sometimes it's really that body doubling mindset of if you have somebody next to you who maybe is experiencing the same challenges, you can motivate each other. So really connecting students to other students in the online environment as well.
I really appreciate you talking through that. I think that idea of, and I share this with faculty quite a bit, like talk to your students about your experiences learning and how did you navigate these courses and what things were important to you and what things were important to other students as they navigated your course. But I think sharing that personal perspective, I appreciated you saying that because I think that's so important to just individual success and supporting success of students.
Well, and even talking about failures. That's something that brings us together the most is, I've been there or I've experienced something similar, but this is what I did and this is where I am now. So I really think that that's something that can connect students and staff. And we have all been a student at one point if we're working here at SDSU and they're not that different than us.
Right. I appreciate that you saying that a lot. I think that's really a key part of this conversation related to well-being in general, quite honestly. And so I want to flip the tables just a little bit. We've talked a lot about students getting supports and services, but how could the SDSU community, as they navigate and support the work that you do, how can members of the SDSU community help support your work and support the students that engage with continuing and distance ed?
Virtual Chick-fil-A.
Right? We're just going to keep putting that message out there. Exactly.
We'll see if we can make that happen.
I think from our perspective, I think just being open to those conversations, inviting us into those conversations, and I think us being part of the Student Success Network is one of those areas where we do have that voice to share the challenges that we hear from our students. How can we really promote that sense of belonging for our distance students, for a student who's living in Virginia or somewhere in California? How do we make sure that they do feel connected and supported as an SDSU student, as a Jackrabbit, just as our students here that live in Hanson Hall or Pearson or wherever?
So I'm going to interrupt you, I guess, and ask you a question. You mentioned Virginia and California. I'm really curious, like, what is the reach of continuing and distance ed? Like, where do we have students? I mean, are we talking globally? What does the reach look like?
Yeah. And that's a good question, Kevin, and makes me think I need to go back out and take a look at our map. But I mean, it is pretty common that we do have students really across the nation. We've had students across the world that have taken courses through SDSU in the online environment and everything. So Correct. And I think even from when we talked earlier and this semester, I think even just our on-campus students that are engaging in online courses, but then we have our dual credits program where we're connecting with students across the state of South Dakota who are taking online courses to get a jump start on their education. So it's a wide variety, and it's a wide variety and age range, and the type of student that we're supporting is, as Mercedes said, we may have a student who's parenting and working and doing school, and then we have a high school student who's engaged at their high school. They may be an athlete and so on. So we know people are busy, and they're really working hard to fit education into their everyday life and everything. And we want to be sure that we're doing right by them, and that they have a good experience, that their learning is what they need to be successful in their life and with their future goals and everything there. So I think for us, it's really, again, being at the table and having those conversations with our partners across the campus as far as, if you're hosting an event or a workshop, add a Zoom link. Let us know about it so we can push that out to our online and distance students. I think those are big things. I think, again, developing some of that asynchronous content. So if a student is maybe struggling at 11 o'clock p.m. after they've put their kids to bed, they maybe have a resource to go to. And I think, again, that's really connecting with our team. So we know that those resources are out there. How can we get them into the virtual student union as we're trying to really push students in that direction to find those resources and navigate? So I think that's a big thing. I think I do want to just kind of mention too, obviously with students who maybe aren't here is them themselves also building a support system. So that may be a colleague at work or a close friend that, they can really talk to and maybe share, hey, I have this problem in my course and I just want to bounce some ideas off of someone. I think building that support system within your own network is important as well. As a distance and online student. And as we talk about stories, I was a returning adult student and relied on online education to be able to complete my coursework in my bachelor's degree. And then I did a fully online master's degree program. And that was one of the things that I really relied upon is those around me that really could provide that support as well, just from, again, a standpoint of I just need somebody to talk to and everything. And we certainly will be there for students when they have those situations. But when you're with your friends and your family and those that it's easy just to share and talk through those things. So certainly from that perspective, encourage students to build that support system around them as well as they're navigating their education through the online environment.
I love that message of a comprehensive support system. I think that's so key. You have great people who care and will support you here within the Office of Continuing and Distance Ed, but then to layer that with those personal supports, I think is such a great message. So we're getting near the end of our time, but I wanted to provide you a chance to highlight any upcoming programming or programs that you all want to emphasize to our audience and make people aware that exist. And so I'm just going to throw that ball out there and kind of let you run with it, but talk programming.
Yeah, we appreciate it. A couple of new programs that have come about in the last year are our Amazon partnership with Career Choice. And so this program provides a variety of resources to SDSU students through Amazon, but the main thing is full college tuition. So that is huge for our workforce, I would say, in a sense, too. And it's not just fully online. You can also attend the Brookings main campus, but that's a great opportunity for current Amazon employees, or maybe even if you're looking to get a job while you're completing your education, a great pathway, and that is for undergraduate. So just to note, more information on our website, of course, in that area. And then our most recent is our PCEOP program, which is a mouthful, but it is the Post-Carceral Education Opportunity Program. And this is in support with the Mellon Foundation, and it really provides a pathway to higher education for previously incarcerated individuals looking for a better future. So we've got a couple of primary goals with this, and it's to increase the overall learning method for these students, and that they are designed to meet in-course needs for our post-carceral students. We also provide academic and student success resources for retention and progress towards degree or credential completion, and provide enrichment programming designed for post-carceral students. So that would include like workshops or guest speakers, potential peer mentoring. We do have a subsidized program for textbooks. And so this is a huge step for SDSU in wanting to support all students from any background. So we're really hoping that this is something that the community embraces and that we get more students involved with.
I love that you spotlight those programs. I think they're so important to be sharing and getting the message out about it here at SDSU. And so we're at the end of our time. I want to thank Mercedes and Carey for joining us today, talking to us a little bit about continuing and distance education. I really appreciate the conversation, appreciate your willingness to be a part of this series. I also want to thank those of you who are tuning in. Continue to listen to the State of Wellbeing podcast, and especially this series focusing on the Student Success Network. I think there's a lot of great resources that we're going to share. So once again, thank you for joining us and being a part of this episode of the State of Wellbeing podcast.
Thank you for listening to this episode of State of Wellbeing, a podcast from South Dakota State University. This podcast is brought to you by the Mental Wellbeing Team and SD State Health.